Welcome to this next episode of YouTube, where you'll see in the enclosures a little bit more snow fell. And when I say little, I mean little, less than 3 inches, but enough to give a little fresh coat to the exhibit. And as you can see, we still have some wintertime chasing going on. Denali's faster than Aiden, so it's good exercise for him. And that's usually stimulated, again, by wolf care staff coming in. You see Denali doing an RLU there, and Aiden... Oh, sorry, that was Aiden. That wasn't Denali. Denali's coming up behind him, and you can hear the scat bucket collectors collecting scat, which is a daily occurrence here. And then Aiden comes down to see the camera operator up close and personal. These chases, while they may, look a little bit aggressive, they're really more or less just some midwinter testing behavior going on. Denali is kind of pushing it quite a bit, a lot of hopping and charging towards Aiden, and especially when Aiden's with the wolf care staff, and that tail wagging, kind of pouncing in front of him, is a little bit of testing behavior. And so we are seeing Denali trying to push his rank a little bit, but not getting very far. Aiden's very stern personality, so you can hear the growling and kind of keeps him in check. And like I said, Denali is just so much faster than Aiden. Aiden can never catch up to him. So the chases continue, and we'll expect that through February, and not really anything more than that. And actually, they do engage socially once in a while, but this is just stimulated by the wolf care coming in, and certainly that gets everybody else and the other enclosure stimulated as they run right by Grizzer's enclosure, and Shadow Malik, no doubt, are hearing this as well. So other than that, a little bit of snow, not a lot, certainly not like we've had in the last winter, but the wolves do pick up scents from the snow, and so that we see a lot more scenting behavior when new snow comes in. And there's Denali picking up a few scents and picking up a little snow in his nose. They're really in fine winter condition. This is really kind of prime hides. They're in real good condition, and they're actually coming into the spring here, probably going to be a little less weight than we normally see. Now, someone had commented about Aiden being seasonally plump, and yeah, Aiden does get a little bit more resources now that he's in a higher ranking status than he has, and who knows, that may be something from a wolf who was normally lower ranking and up until this year is now able to feed whenever he wants, and there may be some behavioral motivations there for him to eat a little bit more than he would normally eat. You see the little bark there from Denali. Again, Denali's tail is going down a little bit, so there must have been a more serious confrontation to lead to the bark. And I do see some hackles, H1, so hackles on the shoulder of Aiden. So that intensity was a little bit different there than what we had seen before. So we look for that, tail postures, hackles. The sound of barking, again, is a threat display, or kind of an alarm or a warning. Unless it's coming from Oscar, then they just consider it mindless babble and they ignore it. So, but for these two, that tells me that Denali's not feeling as comfortable. So we're hearing a little bit more of that in the last 2 weeks, and we'll keep an eye on this. And this will wane as we get into February. And here's a little clip that shows that Denali is not above testing, and so a lot of people feel sorry for Denali, but here's Aiden walking, and here's Denali trying to follow and do the same thing. Notice how Aiden's ears go kind of flat, and Denali's ears perk up until Aiden turns, and then Denali's ears go flat, and Aiden's perk up. So this is something that, like I say, is fairly normal, especially for two individuals who don't have really a pack to speak of, and so they don't really have any kind of assessed social alliances within the group, and so it's just one-on-one, and that's to be expected. We saw the same thing with Shadow Malik in 2002. So we are let you listen to some howling here. This is Grizzer. was filmed after wolf care left, and it's pretty common actually when wolf care pull in and they hear us, they howl, and then when we actually leave the enclosures, they may howl. So you may have noticed that through the fence, and why we couldn't get a direct angle on Grizzer there. But Grizzer's doing well. This is the big hole that he dug last fall, and we now see wide open. It's a fairly deep area, and we have been noticing, as this fresh snow came in and the temperature started warming up, some ice balls on their feet. So one of the tasks that we have is, if at all possible, when they're in a submissive role, to check their feet. And here's Grizzer getting some kind of a grooming from the wolf care staff. And actually, I'm doing this while I'm filming, so I apologize if it's kind of a little jumpy. I'm trying to handle him and film while we're doing it. But this is what we consider to be positive conditioning, and we give them a reward for being in a submissive posture to us that allows us to be able to really check a wolf thoroughly. During the summertime, it might be ectoparasites. During the wintertime, anything can happen. I mean, they could scrape themselves up against a branch. If there's a couple wolves together, we may see that there's a bite wound or something that we want to look at. We want to look at their teeth. We want to look at their paws. Letting them roll over and submit and getting that belly scratch is a really good way for us to, again, maintain trust and be able to give them a positive reward for being in that submissive posture. And as we say, we can take a look at their teeth, we can look at their paws. And in this particular day, I was looking at his paws because the fresh snowfall created some warming. It was a fairly warm day after the snowfall, and then he had some ice balls on his feet that were stuck. And while they can get them out themselves, they can chew on their feet. We'd rather not have the wolves chew on their feet, so basically what we try to do is with our hands kind of warm them up, and then the balls loosen up, the ice balls loosen up, and then we can be able to pick them off. So that's something that most of the wolves get here, with the exception of Shadow and Malik. Sometimes Shadow, but definitely for me not Malik. And now it's not Denali. Denali, because of what's going on with him and Aiden, he's rarely in a subordinate posture and laying down like that because he feels a little bit nervous to be back on his back. So you can see a ice ball in the middle of his pads here. We just take our hands and we try to warm it up a little bit, try to see if it'll roll off, and then remove it. And that's what we do. So Grizzer is really tolerant to this, and he seems to accept it pretty well, and that makes it easy. But when he's done, he's done. And so that'll usually mean that he rolls over, he spins, he gets up and just leaves, and that's it. Then we don't push it anymore. So again, over in retirement, this was also filmed through the fence. So we had already left wolf care, and that's one of the drawbacks of through the fence is when you put the lens through, so you don't get the fence, you get a wolf tongue. That was Malik there greeting. We continue to use straw beds. Shadow had a report here about a week ago that he was real stiff in the mornings after that 20 below weather. So we're keeping these areas pretty well coated with straw. And I'll let you listen to Shadow. And again, Shadow's probably responding. At this point, we're getting deer out of the carcass freezer, and he's probably responding a little bit to Oscar, who was barking because he was at the deer freezer, took a deer leg, and then we put him back in the lab so he wouldn't help himself to whatever was in the freezer. So I'll let you listen to Shadow here. Pretty short, direct howls. At this point, nobody really is joining in with them. The wolf in the background that you heard was Grizzer. He actually joined in with Shadow there for a brief moment. They're getting along quite well. It's a little bit of a clip where they were both sniffing the camera operator at the same time. But in previous weeks, we've had a little bit of posturing and things between them, and that seems to have subsided a bit. And so there are not really any issues between the two of them. So Oscar, as I said, he managed to get a deer leg from the freezer, and he's pretty proud of it, trying to figure out where to go to get a comfortable spot to rest. We've got some snow blowing that we've done, so we've got some banks pulled up there. Finally settles on the middle of the wolf yard to chew on his deer leg. And just to show you what tolerance these wolves have for him, here he is prancing around with a deer leg, and there's Denali. Not even really worth getting up for, to see what Oscar has. They're pretty comfortable with him in the lab, and certainly make it good for us to have that opportunity to work with Grizzer with a dog, knowing that he's not really impacting the exhibit pack. So that's it for YouTube this week. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.